Okay, hey, Ryan here this week with James. And James, I have a fun, off-the-cuff topic. It's Friday the 13th. Let's have a little fun today, but I do have a serious question for you. If you
Okay.
see my hat, it says Bitcoin on it. I'm wearing my Bitcoin hat today, right?
Yes, hashtag Bitcoin.
And things have been going crazy in the cryptocurrency world, and some people are doing really well here and find themselves with some capital that maybe they wouldn't have had otherwise. So when it comes to qualifying for a mortgage, I guess the question is first, how are cryptocurrencies and similar assets looked at, and how are they viewed as collateral, and how are they viewed when going to get a mortgage?
It's a good question, and as far as my opinion is concerned, it is an asset. Obviously, it has a value, and there is no specific guidelines to cryptocurrency. What I would say is most likely from a home purchase transaction perspective, you're probably going to have to liquidate that Bitcoin. You're going to have to sell it and get the cash and use that for the transaction.
So probably right now you're probably have to liquidate it, show the funds in the bank, right?
Yep.
So it's
a great question. I mean, even from a standpoint, can you use Bitcoin as reserves or something?
Yeah. What was that? You were faded out.
I was saying, it's a good question because maybe in the case of, you don't necessarily need the Bitcoin to close on the transaction, but would it be considered a reserve?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Can you use it as collateral? And, the other question would be if I just found a house yesterday, I didn't have any money in my bank because I've been storing it over here in my crypto wallet. And then all of a sudden I make this big deposit into my bank. How does that look to an underwriter?
As long as you can source it, it's fine.
Okay. All right. So I think there have been a few transactions, real estate transactions, purely in crypto, but this is clearly new ground, right? I think you're right. Like, I've done a little research, and I would trust your opinion of that yourself because but this is going to be something that real estate agents and lenders are probably going to have to keep an eye on over the next few years and really get educated on.
Yeah, I thought you were going to trade the palm tree background that I often see you on for the snowy Alps. I was reading earlier in the week on Bloomberg how in Switzerland there's this town has basically become the crypto headquarters of the world. It's obviously because Switzerland with its its banking history and all the privacy.
Right.
I was saying actually jokingly to someone, but it's probably a really good idea. I was like, we should go buy real estate there.
Yep. Yeah, that reminds me of Obama's.
Like all the major players have offices there.
Yep. It reminds me of Obama's statement about crypto a few years ago. It's like having a Swiss bank account in your pocket. I don't know if you heard that. Governments aren't going to love that so much. But okay, so quick answer. I wanted to share this with some of my cryptocurrency friends. If you're looking to get a mortgage, just keep in mind you might have to transfer out of your wallet into a fiat, right, into a regular currency in order to into fake money. You have to transfer your real crypto money into fake money in order to get that mortgage. I'm having a little fun. All right. Thanks, James.
It's going to be pretty cool what the future brings.
Yeah. Okay, and then on rates this week, what's going on in the world is crazy right now. What's going on with mortgage rates?
Yeah, mortgage rates are pretty much stable on the week, honestly. They again, post-Fed meeting, typical that they rise into that meeting. The 10-year bond retested major support, or major resistance, I'm sorry. It retested major resistance at the 240 level, 242 level. It did not close above that or at that number, and has since trickled back down. I think this afternoon we were around 228. So again, we take the low of the year. We touched that 2% in the 10-year bond. The high was in that 240 range, and so we tested the high end of the level and we bounced back. And today really was the bigger move down because we've been in that 235 area on the 10-year. But again, consumer spending, retail sales were lower than expected. Core inflation was lower than expected. So the Fed's mandate is two things, right? Full employment, we're definitely there. Unemployment rate, I think I saw, is 4.1 now. And the other one is that they get back to 2% unemployment. I'm sorry, 2% inflation. So I think we came in at 1.6. So where's the inflationary pressure? It's not quite there. But they're still talking about the Fed making a move in December. And if that's the case, it's going to obviously affect long-term growth. And that's what I think you see from that perspective in the Treasury bonds. So again, more talk on Capitol Hill in regards to the tax reform. Nothing's really happening. A lot of people are obviously on both sides of the discussion, and maybe in between. I think that's really been the story of Washington year to date. It's not Republicans and Democrats. It's 16 factions of the Republican Party trying to agree against the Democrats. So, you're hearing things like at the state level, they're trying to, they're talking about how they're going to pay for it and they're going to remove deductions from the states. Well, that affects big states like ours here in New Jersey, where people are, going to get hurt by that big time. So they're trying to, I was reading in the Journal that Trump was not too happy about that being included. So they're trying to rework that and maybe put a limit so that if you make over 400,000 was the number that I read that Peter King had put out there, Congressman from New York. If you make over 400,000, then you're not going to be able to get that deduction. So they're still working it out, but we all know the holidays are going to be here. This is not going to happen this year, and so we'll see what the future brings. But that's all a result of things just kind of being the status quo. And again, where's the next catalyst for growth? And I want to see this economy grow. I think it'll be a great thing for our business. We'll sustain higher interest rates. You're still under 4% or thereabouts, depending on your credit score on a 30-year fixed. So money's still relatively cheap, and bonds are not moving. And there's, plenty of people out there to say that that's where the bubble is. Again, stock market, brand new highs again, across the board. So the wealth is being created. And you know what? I'm happy as consumers that we're not going bonkers spending our money, that we're actually saving. And if retail sales were lower than expected in September, geez, I guess other than, November and December now, once we get into Black Friday and the holiday season, but, with back to school, if we're missing the August and September retail sales numbers between your vacation times in August and back to school in September, and we're still not, and Wall Street, they'll lower estimates, they'll keep lowering those estimates. So for the one time that we beat the number, they can say, hey, we beat the numbers, and the market can go crazy. So, I like where the consumer is at. I think we just need a little bit of regulatory help in the way of tax reform, and I think that really is gonna launch us as an economy. Which again, better economy, more homes bought. There's no question about it.
Great. So still around 4% 30-year fix. It's been busy out there. I've noticed a lot of because I see a lot of the activity here at Bond Street. A lot more people seem to be making offers this week.
Again, we've definitely are seeing that cyclical effect. Remember, we talked about that you get the last couple of weeks of August is a very big closing transaction month for home buying, and then but the tail end of August gets real quiet into the back to school because people take their summer vacations, back to school. We have the Jewish New Year, then also Yom Kippur, and then boom. I always say Columbus Day weekend is usually the start of the push for the year end, and I think that's what we're seeing. And again,
it's a good sign, right? That's a good sign that things are healthy, that it's going as planned and it's still busy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think again, and I always look at things from that perspective. As long as we know what the market is, then we can be, then we know how to invest, how we can succeed in that market, right? So it's when there's all that uncertainty that things get crazy. But this has been the pattern, really, post-financial crisis. It's not. I always say it's not brain surgery. It's watching the pattern, seeing what's happening out there, and I feel very confident that that's going to repeat itself again this year. Again, our two biggest funding months, and I would say it's probably industry-wide, August number one and December number two. So the deals that you're writing today are the deals that are obviously closing into November and December, as we are Friday the 13th, as you mentioned, a special update here.
Yep. Great. Thanks, James. So another question on rates. So I can't take my crypto, my Bitcoin, one last time, and you won't collateralize a loan, like give me like a 95 LTV, maybe at 5%. Can I make a deal with you?
So typically what happens is that, you can, I know what happens in the traditional brokerage houses, right? Is that typically and this is okay for us, by the way, structuring. You don't want to cash out your portfolio. The brokerage house will allow you to leverage your portfolio in the way of a loan in order to then put that to work, let's say in a purchase transaction. And so we're okay with that because the collateral it's a secured loan. We would hit you with or actually in most cases, we won't even hit you with the liability because you're borrowing against yourself and basically paying yourself back.
Yeah, I wonder if that's there for cryptos yet. I heard somebody told me the other day that the Chicago board, is it the CBOE? I'm a little hazy on. Like that they might allow options trading and stuff. So
it's definitely happening. I also read that in the journal that Goldman Sachs is talking about trading cryptos for clients. So, and obviously I always look at the new words that tend to take over society, like blockchain. I see blockchain everywhere now. Even in our industry, you're seeing a lot. I'm reading a lot more articles, a lot more industry magazines talking about what is blockchain lending going to look like. So it's you got in early. I'm still not in.
I'll get you there. I was just wondering. I think some other guys I know would wonder about this because who are buying a house. If you're sitting on a stack of crypto, I kind of suspected it needs to be converted to cash right now. It's probably the quickest way to use it.
I did give you Fannie Mae though, and that's at 3.25 today. And I think I gave it to you, in the 260s or so. But that's a whole other discussion that we can have. But that also is the move there is that it's tied to the. If you saw last night, the president did away with the subsidies to the insurance companies for Obamacare.
Yeah,
and
that might be good for realtors. I read.
Yeah, it's from the perspective. So I do think it will be good for realtors. I do think it will be good for small businesses also because the other side of that also is that they are also loosening up the insurance across state lines and small business individual independent contractors creating bigger pools of insurance. And I think
that like the groups, right?
Yes, like the co-ops and that. I always said, and I'm a believer in that if you create competition, that's truly, the one thing Obamacare never did, and it definitely helped insure millions more people, but it never tackled the issue of lowering premiums, which is the biggest problem we all have. And so if you remember, we'll date ourselves here, but in the 80s and the 90s, especially in the 80s, you can only get your phone, from one company. And now there's so many, cell phone companies that everybody's giving it away, right? They make you pay more for the device now than the actual money that you're going to spend on the plan. And if you think about that from the healthcare perspective, competition is good. We should have, we should be able to have insurance companies compete against each other for our business as consumers. And by the way, that's also going to help inflation. If we continue on that model, we're driving down prices across the board, right? The Amazon Walmart effect for food. Mm-hmm. These are healthcare is a huge part of the economy. If we create competition there and drive down premiums, that's going to free up money to do other things like buy homes, but also it's going to lower the chances for higher inflation because it's such a big part of the economy. So the good thing for Fannie Mae there and Freddie Mac, and again, I'm not giving any advice, but I'm a believer that they will be released from the conservatorship, is that at least the theory was the money that they were sweeping from Fannie and Freddie were paying those subsidies. So that's been the move there, is that now if those subsidies are gone, now we can have some more, serious discussions about housing reform. But I have news for everyone. Over the last 8 years, and we can talk about the stigmatism that goes behind a name like Fannie Mae, but the reality is Fannie Mae was a great company for 50 years before the financial crisis, like many banks. And I'm not letting them off the hook. But without Fannie Mae, we wouldn't have 4% 30-year interest rates. And so we don't realize how big and important they are to the mortgage and housing industry. They have reformed. You know, we work with them every day. They have made a lot of good changes. And everyone sees it as consumers. What you have to, you know, the process of going through a loan, they still purchase between the agencies, you know, 60 to 70% of the mortgages in this country, and they set those guidelines. You know, for me, I look at it as, you know, they're not going away. It's impossible. And in the 8-9 years, I mean, Senator Corker, of course, who's been in the news, you know, with Trump over the last week or so, going back and forth, he's been the guy to say that we need reform. We need reform. He's had like a plan, but they haven't done anything other than, in my opinion, take the money illegally from publicly traded companies to fund those premiums in Obamacare. Those subsidies.
Cool. Well, as usual, I learned a lot. I needed that crypto question answered today. Thank you. And we'll be back next week, right? We'll get.
I know you don't want to sell it. You just want to get some value out of it.
Yeah, there is. I'll show you after. There is an interesting project that's trying to do that, to allow you, that will lend against your crypto. They'll like keep it in escrow for a while. So that is actually what got me thinking about this. Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I would like to see that.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Have a great weekend.
You too. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.